Hello and welcome to Smooth Musings, the podcast of Smooth Fusion. And today we've got a couple of special guests with us, Nick Wassenberg, CEO of Cludo, and Matt Reindel, who is account executive with Cludo. Smooth Fusion has been working with Cludo for a long time, and so we just thought it'd be great to come on here today and talk a little bit about search, website search in particular, our relationship with Cludo, but then really more importantly, kind of what's coming down the line with AI and other features as website search continues to evolve. So welcome, folks.
Thanks. Good to be with you. Good to see you again, Todd and Janae. And looking forward to it.
Yeah, and Janae is our Senior VP of Technology joining us as well today. And so we're just going to dive right in. Let's talk a little bit, real briefly, just about kind of the history of Cludo and maybe some about the history of Cludo and Sitefinity, since a lot of our audience is interested in Sitefinity.
Sure. I can start and Matt can fill in a little bit too. We as a company are about to celebrate our 10-year birthday here this year. So we've been around for about 10 years. The headquarters for us is actually in Europe. We're based in Copenhagen, Denmark. And then we have our North American hub, which Matt and I are in, which is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And we have customers in both North America, Canada, US, Mexico, as well as all over Europe and all over Asia too. So we have the last count, 700 plus live customers using our site search on their sites today. We really see site search as one way that's an important way for large content sites to unlock the full potential of their content. So like there's thousands of pages, tens of thousands of pieces of content on our customers' websites, and their visitors really want a specific answer. They want to explore and discover a specific thing. That's the value that we provide, connecting people with a ton of content and a single visitor and a single answer that they need relevant in that moment. We've been doing that for 10 years, billions of searches, and feels like we've learned a few things along the way. Sitefinity is one of the key kind of CMS and platform partners that we align with. And I think part of the reason for that is simply that's where a lot of those large content customers tend to be, and they tend to be the platform that they choose to use. And it's exciting to see work with folks like Smooth Fusion and work with our customers on really applying our crawlers, our engines in ways that are really innovative. We can get into a few examples of that if it's helpful, but that's the history lesson. I'm sure I left some stuff out. Matt, anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a great initial overview.
Okay. Well, so let's talk a little bit about just the advantages of using a product like Cludo over, more basic search that might, a Lucene or something that might come with a CMS or something. What's really the nut of what makes it, an advantage over that?
Yeah, I think there's a few patterns that we see for people that are either using something like what you just described or exploring ways to improve their site search from the very beginning. Very common for our customers to be in the midst of a redesign and then want to try and upgrade their site search. And some people come to us as their site is already existing. They already have some version of site search on their site. As you might expect, 95, maybe 99% of the people that we talk to already have some version of site search on their site. And so the things that I think we get feedback on are the configurability is not meant for a very seasoned person that's worked with Lucene or Solar or Elasticsearch for a decade. People that are talented web developers and sometimes even just straight up marketing people, digital marketers, can use Cludo, install it, configure it, and get it to be really, really powerful. So there's a learning curve that's important and a maintenance that is lower than if you were going to build something with some core product. So that's a big part of it is you can implement much faster and have support from Cludo that's 24/7. And if something goes wrong, if you're seeing something that's off in terms of search results, we're here to help. So we get a lot of feedback on that. The other piece that we focus on quite a bit, and we can talk a little bit about where we're thinking of going, is on the analytics side. I think it's site search is can be sometimes an underappreciated, underrepresented piece of the conversion funnel, piece of the like actual engagement of a site that is actually quite important. We see some of our customers with a lot of content, 30, 40, 50% of their visitors are going through site search rather than trying to navigate and find things. Yeah. And clearly those are the highest intent. They have a job that they're trying to accomplish on the site, so they're searching for it specifically. So the analytics around what people aren't finding when they search for it is something that we provide to our customers. The analytics around what searches are trending, what things are getting more and more popular over time. Really, really important for our customers to be able to see some of those things and draw out those analytics. So don't have to build that. It's already in all of our dashboards. We have emailable reports so you can share them with a team and collaborate. So I think in the best cases, site search becomes part of the content workflow, not just for technical people, but for marketing people as well, and brings them together based on the real behavior of people on their site. I know it sounded like a Cludo commercial, but that's what we hear. And that is a reason to look into a thing like site search. When you know people are using it, it's critical to make it good. I think that's the long and short of it. So Matt, anything to add to that? I feel like I need a backup, more details.
Maybe just another way to kind of phrase it simply, like an example anecdote, is that when folks are using out-of-the-box search with Sitefinity or other content management systems, we've got a couple of mutual credit union customers. You might search for mortgage and then up pop the first results, and it's a blog post from 3 years ago. And then after that, it's a particular mortgage loan officer, and it's not the key pages, and you don't have good, easy control over that. So that's sort of the oversimplified version of what Cludo is solving.
Yeah. So, Janae, just from your perspective, as working with a software engineer and developer team that implements Cludo and have seen both sides of search with and without a product like Cludo, what do you see as kind of the things you like about it?
Yeah, I like the way that Cludo gives you more control about how the results are shown to the users, the ranking of it. It just makes it a lot more easy to be able to control the output of the search results and make it more beneficial for the end user. I think it's great how there are different options for implementation. You can just use something out of the box with Cludo and kind of get it up and going really, really quickly. And then we've also taken advantage of having really custom search and working with the Cludo team to help make sure all the right data was being crawled and that the right data is returned. And that's been really helpful to make the search results be the most useful they can be for the end users to make sure that they are finding the content that they're looking for on the site.
Yeah, that's great. So, we really want to spend the bulk of our time here today talking about the future and things you guys see coming down the pipe. And so talk to us about your vision for what this is going to look like, down the road.
I think part of what we see is expectations continue to rise. I mean, all of us on this call and around the world really have been using search for decades now, and it's gotten better and better and better. And to have to search and then look for things creates a layer of frustration. The last thing anybody running a site wants is for someone to search for something, not find it, and just, I guess it doesn't exist. I guess there's nothing here. Or get frustrated when you know it's there and you can't find it. That's probably even a worse frustration. Yeah. So the expectations for search to be super relevant, super fast, super rich output is going up and up and up. I think it's not going to go in reverse. It's only going to get steeper. That expectation curve is going up. I think the other thing we see, which is really exciting, is you look to the experiences that many people are having with things like ChatGPT, with Perplexity, with Google's AI summaries that are in search now too, that those expectations are transferring in that way too. So people are, I think, expecting a richer set of results no matter where they search. And you see it, some of the echo effect is from places like Amazon, where you get a very rich set of results. Amazon maybe has taken it a little bit too far, and now they're blending in things that people don't want to see. So there's some dissatisfaction there. But point being, there's an element of search that's being driven by generative AI that's really changing a lot of behaviors out there in real time. One of the things that we did over a year ago now is added a generative AI results set of features to Cludo. So if you have a site search or a chat feature on your site, you can have it a prompt-based conversation using the same crawlers, using the same engines that Cludo has had for almost a decade now. Have that surface something that's a richer set of results. Or you can also add an AI overview. So say you were looking for electrical permits, you now get a result that looks like, here's your guide to what permits are needed in your community and what you need to know about that. And it's got links and it's got citations and all that good stuff. So having a richer set of results is becoming more of the expectation. What we're then seeing from our customers that are applying some of those systems through Cludo is what types of queries are relying and depending on site search as a more of a traditional path to be accurate, and which types of queries are in the chat or in the generative back and forth and overview kind of functionality. I think it's really cool to see, 10% of people are having these deep, long conversations and digging through more information. And then there's a set of users that are still using the search is kind of navigation. So take me to this area. I can use one keyword and go to this area. I think that mix of behaviors and people that are running these websites with a ton of content, keeping up with those expectations is part of what we see and part of what makes it fun. I think the other piece of it that we think about a lot is connecting the behaviors that I just described to the outcome that you're trying to drive on your site. So to Janae's point, having a bit of control over somebody searches for this, somebody searches for an accounting job, maybe I want to show them a link to the job fair that my community is having. Or somebody searches for mortgage rates, I want to show them a listing to some other tips or some mortgage calculator. So like having a way to control that experience can be really, really impactful, and using AI to do that is becoming more and more kind of the go-to for what we're seeing. Matt also talks to a lot of our manufacturing, banking, government kinds of customers, so I'm sure you have some other threads to pull on there too.
Yeah, I think something you just called out there that we're definitely seeing more of. We're a search company, but I think more and more our customers are also talking to us about the outcomes they want to drive. I'm sure you all are seeing this in your relationships with your clients as well. But people aren't just thinking about more of the technical or the kind of purely experience side of things, but if it's manufacturers, they're maybe looking, how do we drive more leads? Or if they're government customers, they might be thinking about, how do we serve our residents, but also in ways that like increases their ability to self-service and reduces inbound by phone or in-person or email or whatnot, because those just like person costs of answering those things are maybe one of our biggest cost factors. So I think, the more that, whether that's like the kind of experience of traditional search or the usage of, generative AI, the more you can think about that, not from the perspective of like the technology forward, but kind of backwards from the perspective of like, what are the business outcomes, you're responsible for driving? What are the key things at like a top business level you're focusing on? Work backwards from there through like, how does the website and how does search on the website impact that?
Yeah. I think related to that too, Janae and Todd, I don't know if you have anybody that's saying, we are hiring a bunch more people and we have more people than we know what to do with them. Everybody we talk to has to do more with fewer people. More with less is the theme across the board. And I think one of the things that we're really, really focused on is how do we enable teams, technology, content, marketing, business, like executive leaders, how do we enable them to work smarter together without having to add another layer of people? And sometimes that comes at how they think about the trade-offs of having a really good digital experience can help them offset some of the costs that they can't afford in other areas. So it's a good angle and something that I think we're seeing industry by industry. Each has their own kind of like flavor of that right now.
Yeah. Do you see, how do you see chatbots and search either coming together more, or where do you see that headed? Because I know y'all are involved in both. So what do you see in the future as far as what's that going to look like on a website?
Yeah, I think for us, the mentality right now is providing options for our customers that also rely on not having to build both of those systems independently and have a set of decision tree things that live in a chat feature that someone has to maintain and update, or even have that crawling and understanding the content. And then site search is using a completely different system, and that becomes, now you're managing two systems. If I use site search to get an answer, I get one answer. If I use chat to get an answer, I get another answer. Obviously that doesn't support a good visitor experience at all, I think. So my perspective, our perspective really is to provide options to our customers, but rely on some of the common infrastructure and common kind of the things that we've gotten good at over time, being able to crawl and apply engines in ways that help the answers be super relevant and timely, especially in the context of sites that are constantly being updated and that have like content teams that are pumping out new things and that they have this vibrancy. We want to try and provide options so the visitor is in control of their own path. That's what kind of the magic of the internet is. You don't need to talk to somebody that's going to take you in one direction only. You can explore. Right. To enable some of that exploration. We want to continue to leave options open. I think there's probably a future where the expectation of chatbots on sites catches up with how satisfying those experiences are. I think generally perhaps what many of us have experienced, I know we hear this, is a bad experience with a chatbot is pretty frustrating for people because it has this layer of expectation of, am I talking to a person? Am I getting an answer? And if that experience isn't good, it's actually quite dissatisfying, and people complain about it, and then it turns them off from ever going back to that chatbot. So I think aligning the quality of the results with expectations is really important, and something that we're focused on. AI, clearly, like, there's plenty of examples for generative AI in the past where there's been hallucinations, there's been other things. So we're very sensitive to that. We're trying to eliminate as much of that as we can. We have some techniques and tactics that we've learned on that. So that's part of it. I also think I'm also, I don't know, a big believer in, eventually you want 95% of the answers that you want. And there's plenty of cases where now I need the trust of a person. Now I want you to actually connect me with a live person that can help me execute a mortgage application, or can help me with something that's actually fairly sensitive, and that I need the trust of another human being. I think there's going to be, humans are still important and are still part of the experience for almost all of our customers right now. So I expect that off-ramp, 95% of the information I need, I've got. The last 5%, I want a trusted human being to talk to or interact with, or go to a branch, or whatever the case may be. I think we want to enable that too. So that's part of what we do within our technology too, is connect to, off ramps to human beings, which I think can be very, very important as that last mile.
Something I know we talked about a little bit as like sort of daydreaming future state, beyond our current capability, is in more of line of an AI agent that can really help you take action on things. I think, like, example scenarios we talked about, we work with some tourism folks. Maybe right now the search experience on that site is looking for, ideas for your vacation and where might you stay and what might you do. And, what if I've got a couple of young kids, if I could look, have an AI agent for a potential destination and input information and say, hey, I've got, 2 kids, they're this age, we want to do these kinds of activities, here's our budget. And it could maybe spit back out like, hey, here are flight ideas, here's places you could stay, here's activities you could do. And then maybe from there, could it seamlessly help me book those things? I was talking to one of our manufacturing customers this morning. They're one of the oldest publicly traded companies in the US, which is the sort of fun fact I learned from them today. And now it's stuck in my brain. But they have, these different kind of like very technical business lines that are, their products are sort of invisibly in all of these common other, products around the US, but it's not super clear if you're not like familiar with them already exactly where to go or what you're looking for. So they have some tools, some like calculators and some guided pages that they've set up that are great to kind of help try to funnel people or for use as sales tools. But there again, maybe what if someone could come and say, hey, I'm looking for a polymer that has these properties, and this is my use case, this is the business problem I'm trying to solve. And they have content that could maybe be translated into like, oh, well, you should be thinking about it this way. Here are your options. Here are the considerations. You could ask it follow-up questions. So those aren't things we can do right now, but that we're sort of thinking about like as like, hey, this seems like it would be really valuable.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense because it feels like as people are going to stop thinking of going to a website and the search of a website as just get me to a page, I think they're going to start thinking of it more as, get me to a solution to whatever it is I'm here to do. And we've seen that in lots of areas of the internet over the last 20 some years is as people's expectations evolve, they just start thinking in totally new paradigms, and we have to keep up.
Yeah, and I think that presents a bit of a challenge for the people running the websites. I'm old enough to remember when you had to enter your site into a directory and you had to choose which directory to fit into, and you had all this kind of, it felt like control over how people were going to find you and what they were going to need when they got to your website. And so you would build that out. Now it's much looser. Like now,
Yeah.
Google and others are searching for things on your site. One of the things that we're actually talking to some of our customers right now is quantifying how good their content is. Meaning, of course, like looking for where the content gaps are and applying some very rich information, because we're able to see what people are searching for that they're not finding. Obviously, raising that up, improving that will only improve not just the visitor results, but potentially will improve your SEO or your findability from the broader public. I think the other piece that's really cool, and it's March 2025 when we're recording this, so who knows how well this will stand the test of time. But if we think about part of what our customers are already starting to think about is, how do I optimize my site for large language models that are out there that are going to be consuming all of the content that's on my site? Again, tens of thousands of pages potentially or more. LLMs are looking at that and they're drawing their own conclusions based on what they see. So how do you optimize for that? And one of the things that I was talking to a customer earlier today in Europe, and they were using our AI chat and the open AI features and functionality and the large language model behind that to evaluate whether the content on their site was quote unquote LLM ready. Like, how good is the site content for large language models? And it's just to your point, I think there's a paradigm shift that is naturally evolving in the connection between human beings and all of the content that exists online. And it's I think we are in interesting times for sure, but it's also really fun to be alongside our customers and on that journey. So
yeah, look, that's an interesting thing you bring up about your site being LLM ready, because we actually have our first customer that found us by asking ChatGPT who they should call. And so, you want to be the one that brings up, when somebody's giving those specifications to ChatGPT, you want to be in that list. And so yeah, that's, and I think that's what's kind of cool about it is all these things are intersecting in ways that used to be very siloed. And, and even thinking about your analytics and then marrying that with data that we get from tools like Sitefinity Insight, where we know what what pages or what content has high attribution to conversions that you're after or whatever. And so imagine, pulling that all together to say, hey, these pages tend to create the conversions we want. let's make sure our search is directing folks to those pages. And that's something you just can't do unless you have a more sophisticated tool to do that. So,
Yeah.
Well, this is all very interesting. I'm going to give you one more chance. Has anybody got anything they were itching to throw in before we start wrapping up here?
I think the only other thing, we think about the future, we think about all of the potential here, which is really fun for Matt and I and the rest of the team to think about. I think maybe perhaps for your audience, there's also sometimes a case where you just want something that works too. and there's the times when it's like, how many more site search complaints am I going to put up with before I switch to something that works better? We have plenty of customers like that too. So I don't want the audience shouldn't misinterpret, like, we are meant for people that need better. And sometimes better means just not a pile of complaints that you never get to. So just thought I'd give a plug for the people that might be in like, I can't get to this, but we can get you there.
That's right.
We can get you the step one.
Right. Baby steps, right? Yeah. Well, great. Well, Nick, Matt, thanks so much for joining us today. And Janae, thanks for sitting in with us as well. I think this has been really insightful, and hope our folks enjoy it. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, please do that. Also, Cludo.com is where you'll find Cludo, and I'm sure you can find these guys on LinkedIn or something as well if you'd like to connect. We always like to hear from you, and we'll see you again on the next go-round of Smooth Musings. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Smooth Musings. If you liked today's episode, make sure to subscribe, share it with someone, and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts. This podcast is presented by Smooth Fusion. If you'd like more information about Smooth Fusion and how we help our customers with websites, custom software, and more, go to www.smoothfusion.com.